My name is Sam Jenks, and welcome to another episode of The Way We Source, a podcast hosted by Kodiak Hub, where we share our talks with procurement practitioners, leaders, experts, consultants, content gurus, and people that we find downright inspiring, diving into the role that sourcing and procurement plays in the way we live. If you like today's episode, as always, make sure to rate the program and give us a follow. Today, we're joined by the founder of Procurement and senior partner at Plima, former procurement leader in automotive and high growth tech, and someone who spent the last 15 plus years sitting right at the intersection of manufacturing discipline and software chaos. Our guest today is Oscar Fernández, who has built procurement functions from scratch, scaled them inside hyper growth tech companies, and is absolutely not afraid to challenge some of the procurement's most comfortable assumptions, especially when it comes to sourcing, competition, and how much software should actually cost. We got a good one on our hands, so if you ever feel like sourcing has become too transactional or that's quote unquote value-based pricing has gone unquestioned for too long, this one's for you. Oscar, welcome to the show.
Wow. Well, what an intro. Thanks for having me. And again, such an honor to be here among such high profiles that you've invited in this show. I mean, James, who's actually a friend of mine, James Meets, Jonathan O'Brien, who I actually respect a lot. But then again, you have the list goes on, right? Matthew Schultz, Pedro Berrocoso, Nico Bach, Susan Walsh. I mean, super happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for joining, and I absolutely give my flowers to those individuals as well for participating. Now, you said that you really respect Jonathan O'Brien offline. Let's talk about the guests that we've had that you don't respect, but we'll save that for later. All right, the
All right.
podcast is called The Way We Source, right? And you pointed out that we don't actually talk about sourcing all that much in our prep work, which I thought was quite fun. So let's maybe start there. I mean, what do most procurement teams fundamentally get wrong about sourcing today?
Well, there's there's a lot of things. I'd say it's been treated for over the past years just as a linear one-time event rather than, I would say, like a continuous discovery process. Most teams
Mm,
are rather focused on like running, just the RFP or your RFQ. Like, I focus on the process, but
mm,
I actually forget the actual goal. Like, what do you want to do with that? You want to find, when you're talking about something new, find the best solution, right? When you're doing a renewal, you actually want to know that you still have the best solution at the best terms, right?
mm,
So when process becomes kind of like your product, then something is not right.
mm,
And there's also a lot of noise where a sourcing process can be as tedious as you want. And this is actually the status quo today, which means buyers also don't like doing it. So like when they go
mm,
into RFPs, it's like, oh damn, I need to do now an RFP. Um, and you get stuck in all these compliance and process and 50-page documents that neither the seller today reads nor there's a bunch of requirements in there fixed in there. Um, so what do you want to do? You actually want to skip all that and like just get me the price, right? And let me see if I can live with it.
mm,
But again, to me, sourcing is rather more of a is actually in procurement the best tool you can have to actually, first of all, get the best data points for that specific product or service or solution, in terms of price, in terms of features. Yeah, what the market has out there for you. Um, Tell me, where else would you get something like that if you actually run well that exercise? I don't know anything else. Yeah.
I think that what you're getting at that's so interesting is that there's an element of this of procurement getting in our own way, right? You said something that stuck with me here. I wrote it down. Process becomes your product. Do you think that the product of process is one of the reasons why procurement, quote unquote, feels undervalued?
It might be. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why it is like this, right? We probably can get into it later. Um, But if you have a procurement function, what is usually and actually I stand for it. What's your main goal? So today everyone talks about value and yeah, creating value, but procurement needs to deliver value. Is like, what is value? What is value to you? Like, is it are you in cost out modus? Your business is in cost mode. They need the savings. Are they in hyper growth? They need, speed downs, it beats everything else. What is value actually, right? And this is where people just, they stick, oh yeah, value, buzzword, value, whatever. So you need to sit down and understand, first of all, procurement needs to, before going into processes and stuff, needs to understand what is the business doing and how can you with your, skills, with your negotiation skills, with your stakeholder management, how can you, with your market knowledge even, right? On supplier base,
Yeah.
how can you help them bring those goals forward, right? And once you start adding processes, right,
Mm.
that's when it gets tricky because, of course, you need to fulfill the process, but you also see that in the reality, you're always looking for ways to actually just justify why the process was just bypassed. Then when you're stuck in something like this, something's not all right.
You make a really interesting point, right? It's like procurement can't be focused on doing procurement right, the right process, getting the right savings, orchestrating the stakeholders the correct way, having the perfect supplier management. All those things are important. But the more the procurement is focused on doing procurement right, they actually get further away from delivering value because
100%.
really doing procurement right is focusing on how procurement can link their work to the business initiatives, right? And I think that you bring up something that's really interesting there. I think that if we shift this back to sourcing, because we talked about it in the pre-work, that sourcing is where a lot of value lies within the procurement process. And you said that negotiation leverage doesn't happen at the renewal, right? That it happens much earlier. So I'm curious from your perspective, in that vein of that sourcing is where there's a lot of opportunity for value slippage or creation. Where exactly is leverage really created in a sourcing process?
Well, again, the sourcing is your best tool to do that, right?
Mm,
And what's your goal, right? What do you want to get out of it? Is it just a compliant process? I don't think so. I mean, that's how it's looked right now, and this is the tedious thing, right?
mm,
But what is the the biggest asset you get out of it? Well, you create healthy competition.
mm,
And when we talks about leverage, right? And you can see it in two ways. You have sourcing, of course, when you're going out to market, you have never done something before, but you need something, right? Or when you have an existing relationship and then contract comes up for renewal, right? So
mm.
when you talk about leverage, usually when it goes on the first one, if you talk to any sales guy, when they go to the stage and you're talking about a new solution, to I would say 75-80% of the cases, that one solution that was already in talks with the product owner of that service, product, tool, whatever, there's already kind of like someone profiled to win that, right? That's the new thing.
Right.
The discovery, the sales did their magic, and fair enough. But when you're talking about a renewal and you're actually starting the source event because of different things, of course, cost is, and whoever tells me no, it's not about price. Of course, it's about price. But am I getting, for what I'm paying? Am I getting the right things? Am I seeing that maybe in the market there are better things that are already, better products with more features, technologies, etc. How do I know that? I can only know that, of course. Well, if I do, I just informally invite others, whatever. But in that case, you're also already going to market. You're already kind of sourcing, right?
Mm.
And when you do that, for instance, for renewal, right? I think leverage, just to get, sorry, because just to get back to your main question,
Yeah.
you get it in when you do sourcing leverage. Well, time, right? Time is your friend, is your best friend, but it comes also that leverage is created when you align with the business that you're actually doing this. Sometimes procurement has a great idea, and this has happened to me, has a great idea of well, listen, if we do an RFP and
Yeah, yun,
RFQ,
mabit and
we might actually bring in some savings. But if your business is not really interested in it, they don't really just you didn't sell it well, and if they don't see the value of it, because they also need to spend time. A good sourcing event also needs is not only procurement, right? There's a ton of stakeholders that actually need to be involved in it.
Yeah.
And if they're not playing their part in it, there's no alignment in it, then sorry, but what's going to happen is your procurement is going to send out their source their RFP, and sales in the backend is just going to call their champion. And what's going to happen is like, yeah, no, don't worry about it. Let procurement run their event. I mean,
the
you and I,
Janet.
are in good
Yeah.
terms.
Not the
So if there's no alignment, no
that
leverage.
the
The other thing is, of course, what problem. So the requirements or problem statement definition. That's where you control actually, well, the scope and the optionality. Do I really need, when I buy, like I call it, if you let's just think about software. When you buy your Sky network or cable package, right? You have all these bunch of channels, and it's just like, well, I don't look at any of this, right? I just want to look the football or whatever. It's the
Hmm.
same, like if you control that narrative of the scope of the features, like, and the
yeah,
optionalities, right?
minute
Then you already
the
have that you're creating their leverage, right? The other one is, of course, I'd call it during like the vendor creation, and that's where you shape how they see the opportunity. What I mean with that, well, a lot of teams, when they do these things, is it feels very transactional, right? It even says like you're not allowed to talk to procurement. It's like you need to respect the deadlines and so on. And I think there is a space for that when you're talking about a highly regulated industry, when you're talking about public procurement. Just to avoid, because there the catch there, or the, let's say, the negatives is actually other things towards around corruption, compliance, and so on and so forth.
Right.
But if you don't talk to the vendors, right? If you don't actually let them know why you're doing this, why do you need them to take part also in this, and you don't have that exchange, it's like of information, because then how do you know what is also their underlying interest in all this from the vendor, right?
Yeah.
That's the, and I think the other one, well, through all this, right? It's like leverage, and I think I'm repeating myself a little bit here. Authentic competition. Now, is it authentic competition for you just getting 3 quotes, which today sometimes you don't even get, because if the seller don't think this is a feasible opportunity, they simply won't quote you or give you just this price, or right. But how do you get that competition architecture, or healthy competition, to see is this really feasible for what I'm actually executing, right? And that's actually where a lot of teams fail. That competition doesn't feel authentic.
Can I ask you really quickly if we could take a step back, because what you're talking about here, I really want to I want to double click on, but to be able to do so, I want to take a step back. Can you give people a little bit of a rundown of what your primary offering and your primary kind of value prop is at Procurement, and what makes you guys unique, just so that our listeners understand your world?
Well, it's actually based on, or gone around, 2 things into procurement, and procurement in itself aims to help, let's say, companies that are already going into that scale up phase, series B, fund round, where they're already starting to grow, but they also need to, now they're looking at it, it's not anymore grow at all cost. So you want to also scale, efficiently, but you don't have right now the capability to, build a procurement department, and, put in there, extra step that would probably hinder you with that growth, right?
Mm,
So within that scope, what we do is we help CFOs optimize their spend, first of all, negotiation on their spend, and the other one is help them build, a compliant process, an agile, quick process, self-service
mm,
even if there's no procurement department, right? Um, that would allow them exactly to not, also let the other business functions struggle, accounting, seeing invoices that, where is this coming from? And then, you start rolling back, and then vendors sometimes also hurt because, they don't get paid because no one ever told them, where do I allocate this? Where's this the budget and blah blah.
mm.
You can streamline all that and without over engineering it. And that's actually also where we focus. So basically the process streamlining, negotiation, spend optimization, sourcing. Um, that's where we focus. And at Plima, I help uh, rather in the manufacturing is more on an interim management basis, but also within procurement functions, whether there needs to be a fractional head of a team lead or on a project, something. Yeah.
And in your work at Procurement,
Yep.
you are the founder of that business. Are you primarily helping to purchase services and software? Is that a fair assumption?
Indirect
In the
spend. Yeah.
by and large, indirect spend. Okay, great. So that frames up kind of the conversation of what we're talking about when we are talking about sourcing, which is awesome, right? Because I think that buying technology, buying services, buying software as a service is a unique space within itself, right? It is not the same as direct material procurement. And while sometimes I think that it gets kind of devalued in its importance, I'm excited that we're talking about this today. Now, let's get back to what you were talking about sourcing, particularly sourcing in the perspective of services or software. Is sourcing fair? Because what you just said to me is that there is a preferred vendor long before you go out to market. How do you actually create healthy competition that is fair? And as a second part of that question, have you ever seen a competing solution that is part of the competing group, not the initial preferred vendor that probably helped to shape those requirements, actually win the business? And if so, why?
I don't believe, I mean, in this world, in this, let's say, business world, I don't believe in fairness. So
Okay, maybe a silly question. Maybe a silly
um
question.
but just let me see if I got it right, because I got stuck into the fairness concept. You're saying, if so when we're talking about a new thing, right, that
Mhm.
has never been bought before, and we're talking about a
New
solution,
technology. Yeah.
right, new technology,
Mhm.
yeah. I mean, if you're a good sales guy, usually, and let's this has also a lot of factors, right? It has to do also with the procurement maturity level that company has.
Mm,
um but if you're a good sales guy, you already incepted that idea that your solution is the one they need to solve whatever problem um the business has. And you have your qualified leads, your champions, you have already all your plan on who and when to contact, and their managers and so on and so forth. um Usually when that comes to procurement, right,
yeah.
it's already too late. Let's just be honest.
Right.
And
So
what the defense
what's the point
mechanism.
of going out for a sourcing project in that perspective?
Right,
That's my
exactly. So
question, I guess, as well.
yeah, there's no simple answer to it. I mean, what would be the defense mechanism of procurement in that way, right?
Mm,
They didn't get involved, or we didn't get involved, right?
mm,
No, no, listen, and spend is quite high, right?
mm.
But the business wants it, blah blah blah. It needs to go fast, blah blah. And you're like, well, and your procurement head is like, well, listen, this is just not all right. Just to buy something like this, it's just not considerate, right? So what procurement tries to do as a defense mechanism is, well, the best I think I can do right now is kind of like at least try to get something comparable, either run a light RFP or whatever, to see whether it's accurate that this price we're getting, which to me seems quite high.
Mm.
It's, kind of like, um, as you say, all right. I wouldn't say fair, but it is all right to what actually we're requesting, right?
Hmm.
So based on that, you say, well, we're going to launch on RFP, and the sales guy already tells, and you're like, well, I don't. How do I do that if it's the first time I've seen this? I don't have, you know. You tell your stakeholder, your business stakeholder, or the owner of this budget, whatever. Hey, help me out to draft those requirements. What do you think that guy does? He calls his sales guy and says like, hey, help me out, man. Like,
Mm.
let's just tailor this.
Mm.
Um, Usually this is how it's done.
Yeah.
So you just play by the process, and it's just purely a defense mechanism for procurement to try to justify, of course. And again, I'm not saying this is right or wrong. It's just how it is. It's a defense mechanism to justify, um, whatever happened in there. And usually, again, this is tied to the maturity level of the procurement function within the organization.
Right.
Sometimes when you talk about that maturity level 4 or 5, whatever you see in there, whoever wants to depict that chart, where you're talking about world-class procurement, that they're actually, involved, sit at the table, blah, 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 but they're involved in all those innovations, they play part in blah, blah, blah. They get actually to, actually make that screening even. We actually have a vendor in mind, but they already proactively have the screening
Right.
in parallel without even having an offer. So it really depends, and I think it's really bound to that, and to, of course, get procurement to cover their ass. I'm sorry, because if you're not there, and this is my take. If you're as a procurement function there, and you're not there also to help the company save money, then what are you doing, right?
Totally understood. And to and very interesting insight there, right? The defense mechanism piece that you mentioned, I think is interesting to think about. But then my question comes back to, why go out to market if there's already a vendor determined? And how often have you seen that a competing vendor that comes in as a quote unquote price comparison actually wins the business? Is it just a way to get leverage?
Um, so again, for a new solution, um, usually time to market, speed, what you actually want to do with that tool or with that product beats everything else usually.
Yeah.
When you do get when you're able to get someone else, and you make him you motivate this other's vendor, because they know they will be competing against the other one, right? And then it's like, okay, I'll take this person or whatever. um and you have a better price. The only thing that will happen there, and it's, again, if you're a good procurement guy, you'll use that price as leverage, right? And be like, well, listen, you know now the sales guy has all the arguments, right, to actually not give anything. But
Right.
then again, that can, so of course there's a concession, whether you get then the best deal. No, no. So usually, so to I cannot recall, at least in my experience, something coming out, and then all of a sudden being like, oh wait, because you have everything, you have some other stuff in there. You already did either some prototyping, POC testing.
Right.
um, there's already work done with the other vendor, right? You're just not going to roll back on all that and give it all away, because a new one came in, and that you have not even reviewed, and it's going to take you another 3 months to review. You just want to start,
Right.
you just want to run. And best case, then you use that as leverage, kind of, to get something out of that deal. But again, when that conversation is happening, you as a procurement guy, when you're talking about negotiation, you're already lost.
Well, let's put myself in the seat of the good salesperson, right? So I'm the good salesperson, and I've already deeply entrenched myself in this account. Like you said, I've run a POC. I've built a solid business case and enabled the champion that's in my business to already go and start having those conversations about cash. I know that there is value to be proved. I have a very strong ROI business case. Also driven by COI, the cost of inaction. If they do nothing, there is money being lost and or risk to be had in that business. I don't need to be able to quote unquote discount this particular deal, right? Procurement comes in and then tries to, as you mentioned, create competition. Now, I think that you and I both know that the good salesperson would stand on their price point and be able to point to, of course, the ROI that they've already been able to prove out as possible. Now, let's talk competition because I think that we both recognize that a really good salesperson, then it doesn't matter if it's the best procurement person in the world coming in, you're probably not going to get probably not going to get the concessions that you expect to get. Okay. Now, let's talk competition for a second. How do you create real competition in the sourcing process? Because what we're talking about now is maybe an element of architected competition and potentially slightly artificial competition. Fair?
Right, right, right.
Yeah. So how does one create real competition?
A lot of work. And that's the thing. So creating real competition is hard work. It requires deep market research. It requires really look into credible alternatives. You need to dig into that. You need to call them. You need to find out. You need to like also be, for instance, when you're talking about something you already have, right? And you're either not happy with any element, right? Price, quality. Um, you also need a genuine willingness to switch, right?
Mm.
And that's the issue with competitive process. It most of them feel like theater, right? Three quotes get a predetermined outcome, and as you say, suppliers can smell really instantly fake competition. So how do you do that? You need time, definitely. You're not going to do that when you're talking about renewal. You're not going to do that 3 months, sometimes not even 6 months prior to that renewal, because you really need to understand whether, first of all, this other business, this other competitor is really interested in this, taking part in that sourcing process, right? So you need, and this is this you need a great story, right? So why are we doing this? Why do I
Mm.
need you to take part in this, right? Yeah, you're not going to believe how many times I had this, for instance, in marketing. Also, even year like not the best example, but like we were running yearly pitches. Do you think vendors want to do that every year? Of course not.
Mm.
Of course
No.
not. And what happens after the second time you do that? At the next things you already burn, you burn all those bridges. Like you won't get that from the vendors. So it's
Mm.
work. It's about also trust. It's like it's being open to sharing information with them, and saying like, well, this is up to a certain way transparency to see like this is what you would get at the end of it, right? Or what you could get. Worst case, at least you also get to know, you know, with whom are you competing with where are you standing against your competition in terms of also your feature package, your performance, your quality. Once you're really deciding, like, you know, you get three solutions and or five, you shortlist three, and then you really test all those three, right?
Mm.
That's alone that I think for from a vendor point of view, alone that having a company have you tested and giving you that feedback, alone that pays already off so many things without even winning that sourcing event.
Mm.
But it's hard work. It's a lot of coordination. It's a lot of alignment. It's a lot of up to a certain point also selling from the procurement side, internally and externally, to actually get everyone together, to execute well that sourcing event.
Yeah. You mentioned it before, no alignment, no leverage. I, I thought that that was an excellent way of being able to put it. The thing that you also mentioned here now is time, right? Rushing to market is absolutely not the right thing to do. But when you're in market, can you still be able to act fast and go through the steps in the right way? Is there a balance there?
Of course. I mean, if you know your if you have you have already implemented category management, for example. By definition, having a category manager means they know their stuff, right? They know their market. They know who is actually playing for what. They know the latest developments. They know also within their market intelligence what is going on with, competitors and so on. So it is possible. It is possible. You just need to have the right setup for it.
Yeah. Okay. You've worked both sides, right? You've been in manufacturing. You still work with manufacturing companies in your engagement as a senior partner at Plima, right?
Hmm?
You work
Correct.
with businesses buying a lot of software today at Procurement.
Procurement.
Procurement. I'll get it. Okay. Why does procurement feel much more confident, right, in challenging cost structures in manufacturing than SaaS?
It's different. It's a different dynamic, and this has to do with the tangible aspect of it, right? So let's just go back a little bit to how sourcing events and processes were built in the manufacturing industry. You're talking about already hundreds of years uh, of how these things have been done. Yeah, and I think it was at least even during World War II or something, Industrial Revolution, where actually customers or manufacturing plants were already requesting at least like the
Mm,
cost blocks to suppliers to see where could they be more efficient in terms of yeah buying material, for example, right?
right.
So now in software, you're having everything which is intangible, right? You just have a nice UI, right? And just to differentiate, and I'm actually happy that we have only a procurement audience in here. When you're talking about manufacturing, and you send out an RFQ, and within that requirement, you usually, if you're smart, you're already requesting a cost breakdown. What does that mean? You have a manufacturing component, whether if it's a sheet metal part or injection molding part, and you're gonna ask the supplier, and this is just common practice in pharma, automotive, renewable energies, wherever you want, aerospace, and you're gonna get you're gonna make the supplier literally kind of like open book point you out all the costs that they have to
Mm,
actually build this product, manufacture this product that you actually want from
right,
them, right? So you're gonna get
right,
in couple item lines. Let's just to englobe a little bit the material cost, right? Then you're gonna get another
right.
one with the manufacturing, which is divided basically into machining, like your machinery and equipment, which machine you're using in there, what right? The cycle time of that machine, and the tooling that you need for that product, um, and labor, right? So the labor cost. And then you're gonna get a little bit maybe of packaging, and you're gonna get yeah, well, there'll be some other elements like, for instance, scrap. They are also allowed to get like 1% of scrap or whatever. But on top of that, you get overheads in material because you have people working in the warehouse, or procurement sometimes is allocated in there depending on. Then you get the manufacturing, of course. Everyone who is not really touching that part, but who still works within that production facility.
Mhm.
And then you get the cool stuff, the R&D, the sales, the administration. You get all these margins, so to say, right? And on top of that, sharing the pie, of course, your profit, right? Which usually goes between 5 to 10% in the manufacturing world. Now, when you get that open, right? When you put that open book, and you get competitive offers, whether if it's from 3, 5 suppliers, and you start looking, the patterns on their material from supplier A, B, C, D, patterns on their manufacturing. Sometimes there is different technology or different process, but you see patterns, right?
Mhm.
Your discussion is fact based. or you try to make it as fact-based as possible. Why? Or at least I am a fan of, yeah, I won't go and I won't chase a supplier like that on their profit unless they're, quoting 20% or something. They need to make profit. Come on, right?
Yeah.
So let them keep the profit. What I want to talk about is cost. Why are you being inefficient in your cost? Whether if it's in your machining, whether if it's in your labor. You're also not really buying at market rate the aluminum, the steel, whatever. That's what you actually want to look at and find out with those facts. How can this supplier reach out to that cost level, right? Usually the best tool to do that, so you have the market, right? Which actually tells you, okay, look, the market is going like this way. But the best weapon as well is your should cost model, the cost engineering, because you can actually calculate all of those things, and there are really good softwares actually that do that for you with great data sets that will allow you to give that anchoring position, and again, discuss on a fact level, right? Now, with all that I just said, transport that to software. And I ask, I mean, you're in sales. If I would come in and ask you for a cost breakdown, the question is like, would you know where to start?
I mean,
Probably
I
not.
would, but I understand what you mean. No, but I understand what you mean, right? Do you mean hosting? Do you mean the marketing that it took to be able to get you here? Do you mean the customer success team that is going to be delivering our product? Or do you just mean, for example, the cost of the developers that are coding and building this product?
I
That
want
also,
I
by the
want
way, has been
everything in there,
built.
right?
Well, it's also been built over 10 years time, which means that, I mean, how can we
Which
be able
means
to
actually
take
my
into
cost would be
consideration?
nearly to zero, right? So, and this is my thing, Sam. So no,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
exactly my point, and my I might actually even do like I might experiment on this because I fairly believe this actually should be transported nowadays to
Yeah.
the SaaS world, and
Mm.
I'm telling you why. So 20, 30 years ago, if you wanted to do this approach, there was no way you can get any information like
Mm.
from the supplier, from the vendor. There was no way. Today, all of these companies, and most, or at least the giants in the space, they're all publicly listed, and you can actually see those.
Right.
If you are not able to see every cost block, so to say, because in software, if we talk about cost drivers, you're talking about the R&D, right, the development. You're
Mm.
talking below it, of course, the infrastructure. Your cloud, your infrastructure. What are you? Where are you hosting all these things, and compute and all that? But then, it's everything else is overhead. It's like you have your office space or spaces, you have your R&D, you have your
Sales and marketing team.
finance, your
Mm.
sales, marketing, with all those amazing Michelin star dinners that today are, becoming a hype, sponsoring every single event that you want, right? And
Mm.
having boat parties and whatever. So you get all that, right? And then you have all that cost, and then whatever you see in those annual reports, and you see every time you still see like 80, 85, 90% profit margin. I'm
Mm.
just thinking like, even with whatever price you've negotiated as procurement guy, you know that this is not the best price. Now, it's a reality. It's a reality. I'm not here, finger pointing. It's something you can literally just read. No one has, or very little people are doing it. Now, to transport this, the dynamic doesn't kill this yet. Is what you so really well placed as sales guys in the space, the value based aspect of it. What is the value I'm actually bringing? It's not about the cost that I have to produce this, right? It's the
No.
value I'm bringing and giving you with my solution, right?
Mm.
And the difference in the whole dynamic within the manufacturing and the software that makes this not yet to be one-to-one transported. There are ways to doing it today, actually, by the way.
Well, I listen, I don't want you to share those with our listener base. But no, but in all seriousness, because the value-based piece is actually an important thing, because I would argue at the same time, well, what is forget about the payback. What is the cost of you doing nothing, right? And then it comes into this question of, okay, well, then I would get my IT team to go and build something. Okay, well, what does that cost, right? And do you
Right.
have the
Yeah.
resources available, and do you have the correct tech stack there to be able to make it happen, and so forth and so on, right? And I think that you and I would both agree that it's not build versus buy anymore. It's buy versus buy. You either go and buy an off the shelf software as a service and you stand it up, or you buy a bunch of other tools, ancillary tools, and plug them together because you then have the resources and the competency in your team to make it happen, right? I'm curious then, when do you think that value-based pricing, because you just said it, right? A software vendor, a salesperson can be able to hide behind this in ways, shapes, and forms. At what point does that value-based pricing stop becoming a justification and start becoming an excuse? And when does it in fact make sense?
Very simple. When you don't see value in it anymore.
Mm,
When you diminish that value because it gets commoditized. So it was a value, and that's the thing. Like that's a value that it was a value 3 years ago because this was not there, right? But now this became after 3 years, after 2 years, this became the status quo. Now,
mm.
what are you bringing now on top that is right now bringing me that value calculation you did, like that ROI with, how many FTEs I'm saving you, blah blah. That is not accurate today. And now if you bring me, because this is what SaaS vendors do like very cleverly, and change me your pricing model, then it was never about value because you change your pricing model. Um, so to me, just to answer very straightforward, when you'll see the value anymore for it, when it becomes the status quo.
I think that we could probably talk for a very long time, Oscar. And I have a feeling, seriously, that this is part one to another episode, because there's just so much more on the table here that unfortunately we have to leave. Really enjoyed today's conversation with you. I want to be able to round off with a very simple question.
All right.
If you were
All
just
right.
starting your career today, all the knowledge that you have, what's the one piece of advice that you would give yourself?
I'd say don't be afraid.
Good
Very
advice
simple
for
as
anyone
that.
starting their career.
Just
Very
don't be
good
afraid.
advice.
Just dare to do, dare to escalate, dare to just dare. Don't be afraid. Yeah.
Well, thank you for
Yeah.
daring to come and share with us today as well. Before we round off, I do want to hear from you. Quick fire round, like we'd like to do with all of our guests.
Okay.
One word or one sentence answers. Nothing about procurement, only about you, Oscar. Sound like a plan?
All right. Cool.
Now, we talked about in the pre-work, you are transplanted and now living in Germany, correct?
Yes. Hamburg.
What is your favorite German food?
Oh,
Or do you even like German
man.
food?
No, Southern Germany has actually a good kitchen, but man, I'm from Mexico. Like you cannot beat that. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, then
I'm
let's turn
sorry.
it around. What is your favorite cuisine from your homeland? If you got to choose one dish.
There are too many. So the first, so from where I was born, the burrito, the barbacoa burrito with beans, unbeatable. Yeah. If you go to the south, la tlayuda, man, is it's also now called like the Mexican
Mhm.
pizza. Yeah. And I
Oh,
mean, who doesn't enjoy, some really good tacos al pastor?
very nice.
It's
Getting hungry. Now, listen, you're a tech guy, but you're also a procurement guy. And whenever I have people that are big into tech and also big into procurement, I have to ask them, right? Are you a Mac or are you a PC? PC, it is, of course.
hey, what kind of question is
Well,
this?
listen,
What kind of question is this?
PC is cost conscious. Are you Mac or PC?
Mac.
Interesting.
There's no, of course. There's so the cost that's where I don't see cost. That's where I
You
see
only see
performance.
value.
and how I can actually do things quicker. Like,
Good, 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 good.
I'm a victim of the good marketing of Apple. Yeah,
Sure.
yeah, yeah.
Because you made me hungry, I'm going to ask you. We have a saying in Swedish, paradrätt. It means like the dish that you would make for anyone that comes over because it's your go-to. It's your dish that you will impress with, and you know you will. If I was coming over to dinner, what would be your paradrätt that you would make?
Man, so actually this happens here now with my German friends. They love and I loved making them, my birria tacos.
Nice.
Birria is and with short rib, yeah, pulled short rib.
Sounds very nice. With a consommé and
Um,
all, I assume.
you would love them. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Very, very
Yes.
nice. Very, very nice.
You would love them. Yeah.
Well, I hope
Homemade
I hope to
sauce
be able
with the
I hope to
chilies,
be able to
everything.
get them one
So
day. All right, last question. Last question. All expenses trip paid. You're leaving tomorrow. You can go with your family, friends. You can go solo. It's up to you. You have to leave tomorrow. Where in the world are you heading? It's on us, by the way.
really.
Yeah.
So you're really doing this because I was a guest of your podcast. I
We can
love it.
we can talk about the terms and conditions
No.
afterwards.
So I think so. I just need really to differentiate whether if it's to enjoy or like to discover, get new sensations, and like culture experience.
Whatever you want. It
If
is
it's
one trip,
okay,
one destination though.
one trip. Okay, well, I'll go with the other one to just experience something new. Japan.
Very exciting.
I'll definitely want to get deep dive into the whole thing there. Yeah.
Very exciting. I'm actually getting to go for my first time for my honeymoon trip as
Oh,
well.
yeah?
Yeah, which I'm
Nice.
looking forward to.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it'll be nice. It'll be nice.
Congratulations.
Thank you very
man.
much. Thank you.
Nice.
Oscar, thank you so much for taking the time to be able to be on today's pod. Honestly, the names that you named before, we're so proud that we had them on. I'm equally as proud that we had the opportunity to guest you. Thank you for sharing your insights. Like
Thank
I
you, man.
said, I think that this is a part one of this conversation. There's more to dig into.
Brilliant.
If people want to be able to get in touch with you, know more about you, be a part of your network, what's the easiest way to do so?
Just call me. Just give me a phone call.
For GDPR rights, I don't think that we're going to
No,
I don't think we're going to be linking your personal phone number, but seriously.
No, I mean, like, I think pretty much everyone else, right? You can find me on LinkedIn, and my homepage is Procurement within crew, as in we're part of your crew. That would be the easiest way. LinkedIn or shoot over an email, oscar@procurement.com. Yeah.
Fantastic. Oscar, thank you for being a part of our crew today and being a part of this episode.
I hope you and the audience like it, and yeah, looking forward maybe at some point to a next one.
Super. Have a good day.